Only Amalia paid no attention to the engine. She stood upright beside it in her fine clothes, and nobody dared to say a word to her. I ran up to her sometimes and took her arm, but she said nothing. Even today, I cannot explain how we came to stand for so long in front of the fire engine without noticing Sortini until the very moment my father turned away. For he had obviously been leaning on a wheel behind the fire engine all the time. Of course, there was a terrific racket all around us. Not only the usual kind of noise, for the castle had presented the fire brigade with some trumpets, as well as the engine, extraordinary instruments on which the smallest effort, a child could do it, one could produce the wildest blast. To hear them was enough to make one think the Turks were there, and one could not get accustomed to them. Every fresh blast made one jump. And because the trumpets were new, everybody wanted to try them. And because it was a celebration, everybody was allowed to try. Right at our ears, perhaps Amalia had attracted them, or some of these trumpet blowers. It was difficult to keep one's wits about one, and obeying father and attending to the fire engine was the utmost we were capable of. And so it was that Sortini escaped our notice for such a long time, and besides, we had no idea who he was. "There is Sortini," Laceman whispered at last to my father. I was beside him, and father, greatly excited, made a deep bow and signed to us to do the same. Without having met him till now, father had always honored Sortini as an authority in fire brigade matters, and had often spoken of him at home. So it was a very astonishing and important matter for us to actually see Sortini with our own eyes. Sortini, however, paid no attention to us, and in that he wasn't peculiar, for most of the officials hold themselves aloof in public. Besides, he was tired. Only his official duty kept him there. It's not the worst officials who find duties like that particularly trying. And anyhow, there were other officials in attendance mingling with the people. But he stayed by the fire engine and discouraged by his silence all those who tried to approach him with some request or piece of flattery. So it happened that he didn't notice us until long after we noticed him. Only as we bowed respectfully and father was making apologies for us did he look our way and scan us one after another wearily, as if sighing to find that there was still another and another to look at, until he let his eyes rest on Amalia, to whom he had to look up, for she was much taller than he. At the sight of her, he started and leapt over the shaft to get nearer to her. We misunderstood him at first and began to approach him, father leading the way, but he held us off with uplifted hand and then waved us away. That was all. We teased Amalia a lot about having really found a husband, and in our ignorance we were very merry the whole of that afternoon. But Amalia was more silent than usual. "She's fallen head over ears in love with Sortini," said Brunswick, who is always rather vulgar and has no comprehension of natures like Amalia's. Yet this time we were inclined to think that he was right. We were quite mad that day, and all of us, even Amalia, were as if stupefied by the sweet castle wine when we came home about midnight. "And Sortini?" asked Kay. "Yes, Sortini," said Olga. "I saw him several times during the afternoon as I passed by. He was sitting on the engine shaft with his arms folded, and he stayed there till the castle carriage came to fetch him. He didn't even go over to watch the fire drill, at which father, in the very hope that Sortini was watching, distinguished himself beyond all the other men of his age." "And did you hear nothing more from him?" asked Kay. "You seem to have a great regard for Sortini." "Oh yes, regard," said Olga. "Oh yes, and hear from him we certainly did." Next morning we were roused from our heavy sleep by a scream from Amalia. The others rolled back into their beds again. I was completely awake and ran to her. She was standing by the window holding a letter in her hand, which had just been given in through the window by a man who was still waiting for an answer. The letter was short, and Amalia had already read it and held it in her drooping hand. How I always loved her when she was tired like that. I knelt down beside her and read the letter. Hardly had I finished it when Amalia, after a brief glance at me, took it back. But she couldn't bring herself to read it again, and tearing it into pieces, she threw the fragments in the face of the man outside and shut the window. That was the morning which decided our fate.